Whenever you're ready, Keith.
All right, I'd like to welcome everybody to the Tuesday night edition of the Rabbi's Thursday night Talmud class. And regardless of what night of the week the class is given, it's sponsored by Ellen and George Sheeran, Nora and Jack Skiba, in memory of Harold Grill and the David Sussa Trust. Rabbi, up to you now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Keith. So, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for being with me. This evening, we will study a little bit about Rabbi Akiva, this leading character, so important to our tradition and important to LagBaomer too. And we just celebrated LagBaomer, and the idea is to continue to celebrating LagBaomer a little bit further by studying the stories about Rabbi Akiva and his disciples. So as we usually do, I will share with you the texts, and I will ask for some volunteer to start reading, and we will discuss those fascinating stories together. Here we are. So who would like to start reading? You don't need to read from the Hebrew or for the Aramaic, because we have an English version right here. So who would like to start off? Yes, thank you, Bruce. You are always ready and available. Thank you so much. You need to unmute yourself.
My pleasure, thank you. Let me see if I could just get my side screen off. Good, okay. What were Akiva's beginnings? It is said, up to the age of 40, he had not yet studied a thing. One time, while standing by the mouth of a well in Lydda, he inquired, who hollowed out the stone, and was told, Akiva, haven't you read that water wears away stone? Job 14:19. It was water falling upon it constantly, day after day. At that, Rabbi Akiva asked himself, is my mind harder than this stone? I will go and study at least one section of Torah. He went directly to a schoolhouse, and he and his son began reading from a child's tablet. Rabbi Akiva took hold of one end of the tablet and his son of the other end. The teacher wrote down Aleph and Bet for him, and he learned them. Aleph to Tav, and he learned them. The book of Leviticus, and he learned them. He went on studying until he learned the whole Torah. Then he went and sat before Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Joshua. My masters, he said, reveal the sense of Mishnah to me. When they told him one halakha, he went off to reason with himself. This Aleph, he wondered, what was it written for? That Bet, what was it written for? This teaching, what was it uttered for? He kept coming back, kept inquiring of Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Joshua until he reduced his teachers to silence.
Great, thank you so much. So this is the first story we will talk a little bit about, and this is the story that tells us how Rabbi Akiva first started studying Torah. Who would like to comment on this first text? Yes, Bruce, please.
The easiest way to eat an apple pie is one bite at a time. And that was how Akiva started, after he recognized that he really hadn't learned yet.
Yes, and there is no age to start, and we can always learn something new. Actually, the doctors today say that a good way to prevent dementia is keep on studying new things throughout your life, new languages, new challenges. And this is what the Talmud is talking about. So as the water falling on the rock can break the rock, if you patiently embrace some challenge, regardless of your age, regardless of the stage of life you are in, it's always possible to learn. And someone like Rabbi Akiva, he was 40 years old, according to the tradition, when he started to learn Hebrew. He did not know the Aleph Bet until until he was 40 years old, and he became one of the most important masters of Judaism at large. So, and the story tells that the teacher wrote down Aleph and Bet for him, and he learned them, Aleph to Taf, and he learned them, the book of Leviticus, and he learned, so he was learning step by step. And he reached the point that he was able to challenge the big masters, kept inquiring of Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Joshua until he reduced his teachers to silence. So he became so smart and sharp that he was able to challenge his own masters and his own teachers. So this is the first beautiful and important story about the beginning of the studying process, the learning process of Rabbi Akiva. So let us go to the second legend.
Rabbi, could I ask you a question first?
Yes, absolutely.
What language did he speak if he didn't know Hebrew? I assume Aramaic is written using Aleph Bet and the Hebrew alphabet?
Yes, they spoke Aramaic.
But it didn't use the Hebrew alphabet?
The Aramaic?
Yes.
Yes, but here the meaning of the alphabet is the beginning of his knowledge of Hebrew. Although they had the same letters, the meaning was different. The language was different. So the meaning here is not that.
Not that he didn't know the letters, he didn't know the metaphorical implications of.
And he was able to speak Aramaic, but not necessarily to read Aramaic.
Okay.
Here it's about reading and being able to read and being able to study a new language. A new language in the broader sense. So a new language, Judaism at large was strange to him until the age of 40. He wasn't able to discuss Torah. He did not know the stories of Torah. He did not have the opportunity to learn Judaism when he was a child. Yes, Bruce.
How old was he when he became recognized as a master?
I know he started to learn when he was 40. I don't know how many years after he was recognized as a master. But in the following story, we will see how does it continues. So his wife will have a very important role in his learning experience. Let us move to Ketubot. Who would like to read for us the second text? Yes, Hannah, thank you.
The Gemara further relates, Rabbi Akiva was the shepherd of Ben Kalba Savua, one of the wealthy residents of Jerusalem. The daughter of Ben Kalba Savua saw that he was humble and refined. She said to him, "If I betroth myself to you, will you go to the study hall to learn Torah?" He said to her, "Yes." She became betrothed to him privately and sent him off to study. Her father heard this and became angry. He removed her from his house and took a vow prohibiting her from benefiting from his property. Rabbi Akiva went and sat for 12 years in the study hall. When he came back to his house, He brought 12,000 students with him.
Wow.
And as I need another screen. As he approached, he heard an old man saying to his wife, "For how long will you lead the life of a widow of a living man, living alone while your husband is in another place?" She said to him, "If he would listen to me, he would sit and study for another 12 years. When Rabbi Akiva heard this, he said, "I have permission to do this." He went back and sat for another 12 years in the study hall. When he came back, he brought 24,000 students with him. His wife heard and went out to greet him. His neighbors said, borrow some clothes and wear them, as your current apparel is not appropriate to meet an important person." She said to them, "A righteous man understands the life of his beast." Proverbs 12:10. When she came to him, she fell on her face and kissed his feet. His attendants pushed her away as they did not know who she was. And he said to them, "Leave her alone, as my Torah knowledge and yours is actually hers."
Thank you so much, Hannah. So what do you think about, so it helps us to answer to your question, Bruce, about the age. 40 plus 24, we have 64. So he was 64 years when he was ready as acknowledged master. But before that, after 12 years, he had already 12,000 students. What do you think about this part of his story? Who would like to comment? Yes, Bruce.
The real credit he gives to his wife.
Yes.
In the line that he says, "Leave her alone because my Torah knowledge is hers." That without her, he wouldn't have had that knowledge.
Yeah. Does someone know what is Rabbi Akiva's wife's name? It doesn't tell here in this part of the story, but it's said that we know Rabbi Akiva's name and we do not know his wife's name. His wife's name was Rachel. Yes, Roberta.
I think it's also sad the way a woman could not study at that point, that she thought Torah study was important, so she sent him off to study the Torah, and she sat waiting for him for 24 years. And it's not on this screen, I guess it's on the next screen. Someone referred to her as a beast. A righteous man understands the life of his beast. She was his beast. I just think that this shows a very condescending and awful attitude toward women.
I would say that there is a catch here because she is the one to quote the verse. So she seems to be a very learned woman. You are right. He is the one who goes and studies for 24 years, but she is the only one here to quote a verse.
That's true, but then when she came to him, she fell on her face and kissed his feet. That's a very different view than people have of women today. At least I hope so.
For sure, the place women had in that society was different, and fortunately, we are in a better position today. But I see some her father, for instance, she challenges her father, which is a strong thing for a woman to do. She probably loves this man, and she's willing to challenge her father in order to allow this man to study. But yes, we would like her not to call herself a beast and not to bend. Yes.
Rabbi, I have a question. She, in the first paragraph, it said he, at the age of 40, he went to the school with his son.
Yes.
But then here they're talking about it sounds like the wife came after in a way. That was a little confusing. If he started studying at the age of 40, but he went to school with his son.
He had more than one wife.
Yeah, no contradiction here. They had several wives.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. Unmute yourself, please. No? I think I can unmute you from here. So I sent you a message to unmute yourself. You need to click, though. Yes? No, we lost you.
Oh, wrong click.
She will come back. Okay. Any further comment?
Yeah.
Yes, Hannah.
Yeah, she was amazing in that she was willing to wait that long. She placed so much value on study that she was willing to live as if she were a widow. And he gave her credit for that, but others, it appeared, others did not. I also wanted to know, there's a name, at the beginning of it, someone had a name with Kalba. Wasn't that an insulting name? Kalba is a female dog.
Yes, you're right.
What kind of name? Ben Kalba Savua is.
This is her father's name. He is Ben Kalba Savua. Yeah.
That's not a nice name. It's son of a dog.
Yes. And this can show some criticism about him, because he's the one that he's punishing her for allowing him to go and to study. So apparently he did not want to have a learned son-in-law. Yes, Bruce.
Back to the comment about condescending and the word beast. That is strictly, I believe, a total analogy metaphor, where it's written, I believe, in the Torah that a righteous man will even feed his animals before himself as a responsibility. So when it says he knows his beast, I think that's more the reference, not at all referring to her. It's just saying that he knows people, he knows animals, he knows everything.
Okay. So beast not necessarily is a negative word in your opinion. Okay, very nice. Thank you. Anyone else on this one? Okay, so let us move on to Yevamot, our third text on Rabbi Akiva. This is a shorter one. Who would like to read it? Yes, Lisa, thank you.
They said by way of example that Rabbi Akiva had 12,000 pairs of students in an area of land that stretched from Gavat to Antipatris in Judea, and they all died in one period of time because they did not treat each other with respect. And the world was desolate of Torah until Rabbi Akiva came to our rabbis in the south and taught his Torah to them. This second group of disciples consisted of Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Shimon, and Rabbi Elazar ben Shamua. And these are the very ones who upheld the study of Torah at that time. Although Rabbi Akiva's earlier students did not survive, his later disciples were able to transmit the Torah to future generations.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I forgot.
I will mute Carol. Okay, muted. Lisa, what do you think about this one?
Well, I'm wondering what it means that the pairs of students, I guess the pairs who studied together.
Yeah, because of the chavruta, because of the way they studied together.
Right, that they didn't teach each other with respect. And I'm wondering whether that has anything to do with not respecting each other's opinions, kind of thing. Of course, the fact that they died because of it seems pretty harsh.
Radical.
Harsh.
Harsh. So,
But I don't know. but Rabbi Akiva, their teacher, who is right, supposedly in some way responsible for them, but he doesn't get punished. He just gets another group of disciples to teach. And these disciples are, I guess, nicer to each other.
Yes, there are some challenges here, and this is the most basic text about Lag BaOmer. We actually mourn during the Omer the death of those students. Why we do not perform marriages during this time? Why we do not shave during this time? Because of the death of the disciples, of the students of Rabbi Akiva. And the explanation is, why did they die? There was a kind of plague, a kind of pandemic that killed them all, because they did not treat well each other. How so? We are not sure. So it's not because they did not agree with each other, because disagreeing in Judaism is something positive, something good. The problem is the way you agree or disagree. So one explanation that I read about this text is that this is a metaphor to the persecution of the Romans against the Jews. And they could not tell the story that they were persecuted by the Romans and killed, executed by the Romans. So this is a way to say there was a plague, there was a pandemic, they were punished for not behaving well to each other, but actually they were all killed by the Romans. Yes, Bruce.
That makes very good sense, because it then allows us, as we do today, to mourn their death. We
Yes.
give them high respect by mourning them. Had they been truly bad people, it would have been contradictory to mourn the death of these people.
You are right. You are absolutely right. Why would we choose to mourn this group of people that did not respect each other? We would rather mourn other people that was killed in different situations. So yes, maybe they were victims of the Roman persecution. And we will read in the following text about this context around Rabbi Akiva and their students. Any other comment on this one? No? Okay. So let us move on. Now we have a larger one, and in my opinion, the most interesting of them all. And maybe the last half an hour we will devote to this last text, because I really think it's very, very, very rich. Who would like to help us reading?
I figured out how to unmute myself.
Great. So you deserve to read. You deserve to read. Just a moment. I will put you on the spotlight. You are
Okay.
on the spotlight. Yes.
Okay, it's a new iPad and I didn't have it set up right. Okay, here we go. An incident that took place when Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yochai and Rabbi Shimon were sitting, and Yehuda, son of convert, sat beside them. Rabbi Yehuda opened and said, "How pleasant are the actions of this nation, the Romans, as they establish marketplaces, establish bridges, and establish bathhouses." Rabbi Yochai was silent. Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai responded and said, "Everything that they established only for their own purposes." Yehuda, son of converts, went and related their statements to his household, and those statements continued to spread until they were heard by the monarchy.
Just a moment for us to be sure that we understand, because this is a longer story and we want to be on the same page. So one incident took place when Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yochai and Rabbi Shimon, they are all disciples of Rabbi Akiva. So we are talking about the following generation after Rabbi Akiva. They are all followers and students of Rabbi Akiva. And Rabbi Yehuda starts talking and says how pleasant are the actions of this nation, the Romans, as they established marketplaces, established bridges, and established bathhouses. So they are improving our life by those things they are doing. And then Rabbi Yochai was silent. Why was he silent? Because probably he was afraid to die, so he did not comment. And Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai responded and said, everything they established only for their own purposes. So they are not doing any good for us. They are doing it for themselves. Okay. Yehuda, son of converts. We are hearing some background sound. Is it from your iPad?
No.
No? Okay, maybe I'm trying to figure out where is it coming from.
Unless it's doing something I don't know.
Okay. No problem at all. Yehuda, son of converts, went and related their statements to his household, and those statements continued to spread until they were heard by the monarchy. So the fact that Yehuda was a son of converts seems to be important, because this is the second time it appears in such a short story. We read that Rabbi Yehuda is son of convert twice. And actually, we see different attitudes of our rabbis towards conversion. In the one hand, we see them incentivizing and praising people who convert to Judaism, but on the other hand, we see some fear that these people might at some point betray the Jews, and this is the story here. So if you want to continue a little bit, please.
They ruled and said, Yehuda, who elevated the Roman regime, shall be elevated and appointed as head of the sages, the head of the speakers in every place. Yochai, who remained silent, shall be exiled from his home in Judea as punishment and sent to the city of Tzipori in the Galilee. And Shimon, who denounced the government, shall be killed.
Okay, so just a moment. We see consequences. Yehuda was elevated because he praised the Romans, and actually he was the one who told the Romans, or told his family, and his family told the Romans what was going on. So he was elevated. Yochai, that was silent, he was punished as well. So being silent was not enough. You had to say beautiful things about the Romans. If you stood silent, you could also be punished, as it happened with him. And Shimon, who denounced the government, shall be killed. Okay, just a word about this Shimon. I will mute you for a second because I think there's some background noise. Yes, the background noise was coming from there. This Shimon is Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and Shimon Bar Yochai is considered to be the author of the Zohar, the most important book for Kabbalah, for Jewish mysticism. So the scholars are sure that he was not the author of the Zohar. The Zohar was written much later. So Shimon Bar Yochai lived by the 2nd century, and the Zohar was written 11 centuries after, by the 13th century in Spain, by Moses de Leon. So the scholars agree that Moses de Leon was the author of Zohar, but he decided to attribute the authorship to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai because it would make Zohar much more known and much more important, and it actually became one of the most important books of Judaism. So we know about Zohar maybe because it was understood to be written by Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, when it was actually written more than 1,000 years after by Moses de Leon. So this is Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, a very central character. And the disaster that we saw in Israel last year in LagBaomer, it was because people were visiting his graveyard in Meron. That cave, yes, Marty.
No, I went right by that a few days ago. And this year they're taking a lot more precautions. They did take a lot more precautions.
Okay, so we will read in the story here that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai hid in a cave for several years. And that cave is visited by mainly Orthodox Jews during Lag BaOmer. And last year there was a big tragedy, big disaster there because of the quantity of people that were there. So this is Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, a very, very central and important figure for us to understand. So he shall be killed. Let us see what happens with him, please.
Okay, are you sure you said this, my iPad's making noise? Is it okay?
It's not anymore. There was some background noise. Maybe.
Oh, not here. I don't know. Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Shimon, who denounced the government, shall be killed. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and his son, Rabbi Eleazar, went and hid in the study hall. Every day, Rabbi Shimon's wife would bring them bread and a jug of water, and they would eat. When the decree intensified, Rabbi Shimon said to his son, "Women are easily impressionable, and therefore there is room for concern lest the authorities torture her and she reveal our whereabouts."
Just a moment here. So women are here pictured in a very, very negative way once again. And so this same woman that is taking care of them and is sending food and water and everything they need, they are worried that this very same woman will talk to the Romans and will say where they are. And actually we see from the previous story that the Romans were told about Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai not by women, by another rabbi, by Yehuda, but they were here concerned about this woman that would actually talk about her husband and son to the Romans. So women here pictured in a very, very non-comfortable and beautiful way. Yes.
I disagree with you on that because it says, I disagree because it says that the woman could be tortured and then reveal the information. And maybe he wants to protect her. He doesn't want her to go through the kind of torture that's reserved for women.
Yeah, I don't like this part.
Oh, easily impressionable.
Yeah, because men can also be tortured, and you would tell everything. So it's not because she's a woman, because it was dangerous. It was dangerous times. But
Right.
I think it's not connected to the fact that she's a woman. I see some prejudice here. I don't know if I'm too sensitive, but I see some prejudice. Okay, let us continue.
They went and they hid in a cave. A miracle occurred and a carob tree was created for them, as well as a spring of water. They would remove their clothes and sit covered in sand up to their necks. They would study Torah all day in that manner. At the time of prayer, they would dress, cover themselves and pray, and they would again remove their clothes afterwards so that they would not become tattered. They sat in the cave for 12 years.
Okay, so they spent 12 years inside this cave. How did they survive? They survived with this carob tree and the spring of water. And they were probably so elevated with their studies and prayers that they could survive solely on carob tree and water. So this is a very strong image of these people naked under the sand, studying Torah and dressing themselves to pray and then going back to the sand to study Torah. It's a very, it's an image of a quasi death. They are buried alive, I think.
Is it cooler? Is it cooler under the sand? I mean, I don't understand why they would bother.
I don't
Is
know.
it cooler if you're buried under the sand?
Maybe. I actually don't know what are they doing under the sand.
I mean, I get the symbolic part of it. And I also don't get the part about how, like, they're doing it so that their clothes won't get shredded. I mean, there are many ways to take good care of your clothes, but taking them off and not wearing them is a stranger one than other ones.
What does tatered mean?
Oh, tattered means shredded and ripped.
When something is used very often, it gets old and tattered.
Okay,
Yeah.
so in order not to spoil their clothes.
Which is, they must have been really beautiful clothes, or I
Which
don't get that one.
which doesn't make any sense. Yes, Bruce.
An interesting part of this miracle that occurred is that a carob tree does not produce its edible fruit for a whole generation. So here the miracle occurred that this carob tree was created and immediately produced fruit. So that's a major miracle in itself.
Okay, so yes, carob tree was created ready to be used, not from the beginning, because the carob tree is the same tree that we read in another story, that it takes 70 years to give fruits. Yeah. Okay. Anything else? So let us move on a little bit more, because it still will be more interesting. They said,
They sat in the cave. They sat in the cave for 12 years. Elijah the prophet came and stood at the entrance to the cave and said, "Who will inform Bar Yochai that the emperor died and his decree has been abrogated?"
okay, once the emperor dies, the decree does not stand anymore, and he's free to go. So Elijah the prophet, this mystical character, stands by the entrance of the cave and says, "Who will tell Bar Yochai, Shimon Bar Yochai. Who will tell Shimon Bar Yochai? So he's telling Shimon Bar Yochai. He's saying it out loud in order to tell Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai that the emperor died and he's allowed to go. Okay.
They emerged from the cave and saw people who were plowing and sowing. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai said, these people abandon eternal life of Torah study and engage in temporal life for their own sustenance.
Okay, just a moment. So when they leave the cave, they saw people who were doing their work in order to eat, in order to live, in order to function as a society, but they could not they could not live with that anymore. And Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai said these people abandon eternal life of Torah study and engage in temporal life for their own sustenance. But he says in a very bad way, he's criticizing those people who are wasting their time. Instead of studying Torah inside the sand or praying, they are working. Okay.
Well, not everyone gets to have a carob tree created for them. Some of us have to get our own carob trees.
Yes, 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 yes. And sometimes to wait 70 years. Yes. The Gemara.
Okay. The Gemara relates that every place that Rabbi Shimon and his son, Rabbi Eliezer, directed their eyes was immediately burned. A divine.
So this is a metaphor. Sorry to cut you.
That's okay.
Yeah, this is a metaphor for the disconformancy. Does this word exist? Oh, okay. The impossibility for them to live in society again. So everything they would direct their eyes, it will be burned. They started to destroy, to spoil. They were so worried about their clothes inside the cave to take care of their clothes, and they are now outside the cave and they look at something, at a tree, and they look to some object, they look to some person, and they burn everything with their eyes. They are just unable to live in society. And then what happens?
A divine voice emerged and said to them, did you emerge from the cave in order to destroy my world? Return to your cave. They again went and sat there for 12 months. They said, the judgment of the wicked in Gehenna lasts for 12 months.
Okay, this sentence is very, very, very important. And this became the reason why the mourners would say Kaddish only for 11 months. Someone who is mourning for a father or a mother needs to say Kaddish for 11 months. Why? Because of this sentence. The judgment for the wicked in Gehenna. Gehenna is a hell. It's a Jewish hell. Lasts for 12 months. Meaning a wicked person, a very bad person, will stay in hell maximum 12 months. This is the maximum period of time that a punishment for a bad person would last. So in order to show our belief that this person to whom we are saying Kaddish is not a wicked, is not a bad person, we will say Kaddish only for 11 months. As if we were saying, even if this person had some mistakes, some sins, some problems, he was not the worst possible wicked, the worst possible person. So the tradition of saying Kaddish for 11 months in Judaism comes from this phrase, from the belief that the maximum amount of time that a person can spend in hell, in Gehenom, is 12 months. So we believe that our father, our mother is not the worst, in the worst category, and we will say Kaddish for them only for 11 months and not for 12. So this sentence impacted halacha, impacted the law and the tradition regarding mourning in Judaism. So this is an important sentence. So they stood in the cave for 12 years and then for additional 12 months. So the total was 13 years, which is interesting too, because it's the bar mitzvah and bat mitzvah for this congregation age. So they had to mature as a bar mitzvah and a bat mitzvah. They had to mature in order to being able to return to society, to live in society. So I find it very, very interesting. So let us move on a little bit more.
Okay. Surely their sin was atoned in that time. A divine voice emerged and said to them, emerge from your cave. They emerged. Everywhere that Rabbi Eliezer would strike, Rabbi Shimon would heal. Rabbi Shimon said to Rabbi Eliezer, my son, you and I suffice for the entire world, as the two of us are engaged in the proper study of Torah. As the sun was setting on Shabbat Eve, they saw an elderly man who was holding 2 bundles of myrtle branches and running at twilight. They said to him, why do you have these? He said to them, in honor of Shabbat. They said to him, and let one suffice. He answered to them, one is corresponding to remember the Shabbat day to keep it holy, Exodus 20, verse 8. And one is corresponding to observe the Shabbat day to keep it holy, Deuteronomy 5, verse 12. Rabbi Shimon said to his son, see how beloved the mitzvot are to Israel? Their minds were put at ease and they were no longer as upset that people were not engaged in Torah study. Okay.
And end of story. So I will take the story out for a while for us to being able to see each other again. And I will remove the spotlight thing. Okay. So what do you think? I like this story very much, and I think it's a very, very important story, and I will explain why in a while, but I would like to hear from you. Please feel free to talk.
Well, I think one of the things is that Torah study, if you do it in a cave and you divorce it from anything that has anything to do with real life, and you make it the basis of a condemnation and judgment of everyone who's not in a cave studying Torah, it's not really, even though you had to do it to escape the anger of the monarch, it's not the best way to live your life. You have to understand that the mitzvot and real life, the life of ordinary people, is important and is not there for your condemnation. Everyone serves a purpose. Everyone can observe the mitzvot, even if they are not studying in a cave. So that life has to have a certain kind of balance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I think the cave can be a place to go from time to time to recharge our batteries, but we cannot stay there for a long period of time because it puts us apart from society, from life. And I think that Shabbat somehow is a cave. And we stop working. We stop doing those things that were condemned by them, that other people were doing. But it's only one day a week. We have 6 other days to work and to create. and to build. And sometimes we stop and we go to the cave, but we cannot stay there too long. A cave is a place to be for a while, but it's not a place to live. There are other religions that believe that the ideal is to go to a very high mountain and to stay there forever. To go to an island and to isolate yourself from society. But Judaism believed that the beauty is to live with the tension that life in society brings to you. And the study and the ritual and the prayer is there for you to go recharge yourself for a while, but not to stay there. Because if you stay there too long, you just cannot adjust anymore, and you are not doing anything for society. We need to impact society. The most important thing in Judaism is to impact society. There is one law, one halakha that I love, that every synagogue should have a window. And this is the idea of connecting ritual to the street, ritual to society, to what is happening outdoors, outside the synagogue. The synagogue does not make any sense if it's not connected to life. And life happens outside the synagogue, mainly. So the synagogue is a great place to be for a while, to recharge your batteries, to pray, to study, but do not live there. You can live there for a while in the upstairs apartment, but do not live do not live in the synagogue, because you need to be in society. You need to improve society, tikkun olam, to promote tikkun olam, to improve society. And so the cave is a place that you can go sometime and visit and be there for a while, but it's dangerous to stay there for too long, because it will make impossible for you to return to society. And as I said to you, I find it very interesting that the number is 13 years. So they stay there for 12 plus 1. They stay there 13 years. So they need to mature in order to, so it's a ritual of passage. It's a passage ritual for them to be there in the cave and then being able to be in society. Stephen cried, please.
Yeah, I just, I liked how it ended, in that the rabbis, it's almost like the rabbis are saying, you don't even have, that as long as you're doing something. So even if you're not in shul, or you're not studying, or you're not doing something, just carrying 2 sticks to honor Shabbat is good enough. As long as you're doing something to kind of honor it, that's enough. Whatever it is, and whatever each person does, that's good enough. I just thought that was a nice way to end the story.
I totally agree, because it gives us perspective, Stephen, and we then understand that kissing the Torah is not the most important thing in the world. It's symbolic. We are talking about the values that are there inside the Torah. And when you mix up things, you start doing idolatry. You start doing avodah zarah. When you think that by kissing the Torah, you will be good, it will fulfill your wishes, it will solve your problems. There is a dangerous Judaism, a dangerous possible Judaism there. When you think that lighting the candles every week will resolve everything for you. And I don't know if you heard a variation of the following. If all the Jews in the world will keep 2 Shabbatot in a row, then the Messiah will come. Or if all the Jews in the world will light Shabbat candles 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month or variations of that. And I really do not believe the Messiah will come. The Messiah are us. We are the Messiah. We are the ones that are able to impact the world and improve the world solely by doing rituals. Only by doing rituals, we are not going anywhere. The rituals are there to inspire us to impact society. Rituals are means and not ends. Keith.
The two rabbis who were in the cave were talking only to each other. And I thought the point of being a teacher is to have students. If you're only talking to yourself or to your compatriots, you're not accomplishing anything.
Yes, probably there was not a wide range of opinions.
Well, they were both naked, so.
Yes, Carol. Bruce.
2 points. The cave represents isolation,
Yes.
which is the total opposite way of studying Torah, the way we are doing it right here and now. So that's 1 point. The second point is Torah is meant to be studied as with people. And so they were punished by studying it in isolation. And then after their punishment, they were then rewarded and able to go back out into the public and do good deeds, healing the people and having a better life.
Yes, Bruce, I agree. And I think that the message is that the very same Torah can isolate or bring people together. It depends how you read it, how you use it.
Fanaticism is a bad thing.
Right.
Which is what they were doing by locking themselves in a cave.
What is a bad thing?
Fanaticism.
Yes, fanaticism. Fanaticism is a bad thing. Yes, for sure.
Rabbi,
Yes, Carol.
the pandemic was a source of isolation for us that we had not ever experienced. And it was a long time. I mean, some people didn't uphold all of some people had to go to work or they stayed home but there were many people who still were able to perform community service by collecting food, by delivering food, by serving some people, by cooking, there were many, many things providing for the poor and the needy under the circumstances. So isolation can be a way also of being grateful for what you have and serving others at the same time.
Yes, sometimes isolation is even necessary.
Well, we had no choice at the beginning.
But there is a moment to move on. And there are people who are having very hard time now to resume their lives. Mm-hmm. People who had social challenges that have hard time socializing found the pandemic as a good excuse to remain isolated, to remain apart from society. So there are moments in which we need to go to the cave. We are to save our lives. Mm-hmm. As Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the problem is not that he went to the cave. The problem is that he stood there mentally, spiritually. He could not leave the cave anymore. Only after those 12 additional months. Yes. Anyone else? So I would like to thank you so much for this amazing session. And I would like to let you know that I want to bring you out of the cave for the next meeting here at Herjek, if possible. So we will transmit anyway, because we know that there are people who just cannot make it. But for everyone who can, I would like to invite you to come here. It will be our last session before the summer break. And I will talk about abortion in Judaism. So I will bring you different Jewish attitudes towards abortion. It's a very, very important theme here in the United States. Now you know the Supreme Court is debating, and the draft was leaked, and we know that they are about to undo things connected to abortion, and it will be a very, very big debate. It's already a very big debate, and it will be even bigger. And knowing what Judaism has to say about it, I think it's very interesting. So let us come together. It will be on June 9th. Yes, June 9th, here at Herjik at 8. I will send you email, and you will see the blast from the congregation, everything. But I would love to have you all here in person for this last session. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.
See you soon. Have a good night.
Good
Bye-bye.
night.
I am.
Bye-bye.
I sent you a little message. I think you saw it. With Everett?
Okay, so I'm gonna go.
Yeah, okay.
I will talk to you later.
Uh,